What is going on, collective? Welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Belligerence. Like, comment, share, and or subscribe. Okay, so in the last video I got to do religion, right? Okay, so in this one I'm going to do spirituality. Now with spirituality here, and for those of you who aren't interested, you can click off now, because this is definitely not pulling cards, but it's just information that correlates spirituality with mathematics, and chemistry. I'm going to do chemistry. I'm going to do mathematics another day because it's some stuff that I want to look at, and I'm trying to learn how to piece the videos together so that I can show you guys exactly what I'm talking about when I do what I do, right? I have a book that I work out of. This is my own personal book. Matter of fact, I'm working on my second one here, and I am going to teach out of this book today. So essentially, this is just information that I came across while I was, doing my own spiritual journey or whatever, okay? And at first, I was wondering if I should even release this kind of stuff, but I think I'll see how I do, and then I'll go from there. So basically, we're going to correlate chemistry with magic, right? The pentagram. We'll start with the pentagram, right? So of course we have let's start basics, the pentagram, right? And I am so sorry about this in advance, but I wrote with a permanent marker on my board and I couldn't get it off. So all right, so we got the pentagram, right? All right, so now let's correlate it to chemistry. Now when it comes to magic in itself, you know, with the 5 points or whatever, essentially it correlates to the elements, right? You have fire, you have earth, you have water, you have air, and then you have the spirit. The spirit is in duality, okay? I'll explain that in a moment, okay? Now, this is what we got here, right? You got, what is that? Fire, earth, air, water, and spirit. Hopefully you can read that backwards. I don't know if it's going to show backwards or whatever, but yeah. Anyway, as a correlation with this or whatever, right? So how do you correlate it to chemistry? Like, how does it connect to chemistry is the question, right? Okay. So basically what we're going to do is going to take each element and we're going to break them down into their chemical form, to their chemistry-based form. Like for water, water would be what? H2O, right? Which means that water is essentially mostly hydrogen. So with water, it will be hydrogen, right? Hydrogen. Next would be fire, right? With fire, guess what? Ideally, you would think like flame with all that good stuff or whatever. But when it comes to fire, it's connected to oxygen. Why oxygen? One, you need oxygen to burn, first of all. And second, essentially when it comes to certain metals and stuff, I think when I did this, it was something about the metals. When you connect it to when you get metal and it oxidizes, it has to do with oxygen. Oxygen was the core, is what they had in common, basically. So when you add oxygen to things, it has a tendency to consume it, just like firewood. Oxygen to the blood essentially turns into what? It breaks down the blood essentially over time if the oxygen is there too long, and it turns to like a bacteria. It allows bacteria to thrive. Oxygen on metal consumes the metal essentially, right? Oxidize it, right? Oxygen essentially in this circumstance situation is definitely closer to a flame, right? And then next you have air, which is connected to nitrogen. Here we go, nitrogen, right? I know y'all can see it. My writing is terrible. But anyway, air will be connected to nitrogen. Why? Because in the body, when we increase our nitrogen intake, guess what happens? Oh, I remember now. Dang. Okay. When we increase our nitrogen, when we increase nitrogen, our nitrogen intake in the body, it creates more air. I mean, it gives us it's basically it's like more air, basically, you know what I'm saying, because nitrogen is in the air or whatever, but when you increase nitrogen in the body, it causes it to perform higher, especially for those people who have struggle breathing and stuff like that. Open up the pathways. Now with oxygen, with it being fire, I believe it has something to do with when you increase oxygenation in the body. The more oxygen you take in your body, the higher your pH, the higher your temperature goes. If you notice, when you run and you start to respirate, respirate, you start, sweating and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden you have to take in more oxygen. Well, as you're taking in that more oxygen, what it's doing is it's adding that you know what I'm saying, it's feeding the fire inside of you. That's what oxygen does. It feeds that fire inside of you. Next we have carbon. For earth we have carbon. Now essentially that's pretty much self-explanatory, because essentially what happens is whenever we burn something up or whenever we consume things, it goes back to like a carbon-based form, right? Now, with the spirit, okay, spirit or whatever, there's two. One is going to be sulfur, and the other one is going to be phosphorus. Okay. I can't remember which one. It's been a while since I looked at this work, but I had a lot of fun when I did it or whatever, right? But sulfur and phosphorus are also inside the body as well. But I can't remember exactly how they correlate to the human body and give you full input onto it. However, what we are going to do is we're going to tie everything together. Now, I still got my pentagram. For the fire aspect, I'm just going to write O to represent oxygen. For the water pentagram, because essentially when you do your incantation, when you do your pentagrams or whatever, right? Essentially, this is what happens here. Let's say if you're gonna, banish things to the earth, you start at the earth, carbon into the spirit, down into fire, and like that. That's why I have this one as earth, because I know this is the earth quadrant. When when you do the pentagram, that's where you normally start or whatever, right? But anyway, let's correlate it to its chemistry form, its chemistry names, right? So with the fire, you got oxygen, which is O. With water, you got H, which is hydrogen. With earth, you got C, which is carbon. With air, you got N, which is air. And then with the spirit that's above, you got S/P. And essentially that right there represents that Masonic eagle. One half represents sulfur, the other half represents phosphorus. That's why you have the eagle with the wings and the feet. The wings, one wing represents air, one wing represents water. The feet represents one earth, one fire, and then the two heads represents sulfur and phosphorus. One for active and one for passive. Okay, male and feminine. Combined together, it creates what? The hermaphrodite. Because everything is hermaphrodite in nature. okay? Originally, before Adam, well, I ain't gonna say before Adam, hold on. Let me backtrack, I don't wanna say the wrong thing. But essentially, when God created Adam and Eve, essentially, it was designed as like a hermaphrodite kind of thing, where you got both masculine and feminine. But then he split them and said, okay, you got your masculine and feminine, you got your masculine and feminine. That's another whole nother story for another day, obviously. Okay, so anyway, so now that we got it connected to chemistry, right? This is what we're gonna do. This is where it's gonna get pretty fun, right? Now we're gonna do our invoking and banishing, and then I'm gonna correlate it to the chemical compound that's connected to it. So let's do the very first one. We're gonna invoke air, right? With the invocation of air, when we're invoking the air, we're starting here, and I believe we start here and we go over, then we come down, then we come up, and then we come here, and then we come back, right? So if we had to put those letters in order, it would be, let's see, yeah, it stops at O, right? So it would be like N and O, because basically you start at N and you end at O. So when you have that, it equates to nitric oxide. That's what NO is, nitric oxide. So number two, when you invoke water, right? When you start with, so you're going to start at hydrogen, right? And then from there, you're going to go to nitrogen, oxygen, the spirit, carbon, and then back to hydrogen, right? What does that create? That creates an amino. Let me see here. Is that right? Yeah, it creates amino. Creates an amino. Where do we see aminos? We see that in our bodies and stuff like that, right? Wait, hang on. Okay. Yeah, we create an amino because it is matter of fact, I think, yeah, let me see, air, nitrogen and oxide. This is hydrogen and nitrogen. Yeah, hydrogen and nitrogen. When you combine hydrogen with nitrogen, or hydrogen going to nitrogen, that is, okay, I see what happened here. Okay. So hang on, before we do the invoking or whatever, right? This is what happened. Okay. So remember I told you we're gonna go back, and remember I was talking about invoking air. Now what you're doing here is with invoking air, you're going from nitrogen to hydrogen, right? Nitrogen to hydrogen. That's NH. Is that nitrogen hydroxide or something like that? I can't remember which one it is, because I got the chemical compounds for it. But anyway, the chemical compound for that would be like NHCO or something like that, right? NHCO. And then you have the water aspect, in which basically is just amino, which is hydrogen going to nitrogen, oxygen, and you come back down to carbon, which is basically like HNCO. What's HNCO? Yeah, it would be like HNCO, which equates to, I believe, like amino, I think. No, that's not right. if you were to start at hydrogen and go over to oxygen, I mean, hydrogen to nitrogen would be an amino, but nitrogen to, okay, nitrogen to, okay, I see what I'm doing here. That's an amino. Okay, so I labeled each one. That's what happened. Okay, I got one that's mislabeled. It's been a while since I've been in this book. So anyway, yeah, basically that's how it works. Because then you got invoking earth or whatever, right? You're starting at carbon. You're going to come up to the spirit, and then you come back down to oxygen, which makes it what? Carbon monoxide. And then with fire, you start at oxygen, and then you go up, and then you come back down into carbon, and then all of a sudden it is an oxidizer. I want to say it's an oxidizer. Now, when you are invoking active and passive spirits, when you, let's say you're invoking active, you know what I'm saying? And you know, normally with invoking the active, what happens here is you're going to start at the feet and you're going to move up to the hands, right? This right here is active. This right here is passive, right? That's one thing. When you are invoking active and passive, you're going to start at the feet and draw it up from the feet, depending on which way you go or whatever, right? So with invoking the active spirit, it would be HNO, which is nitroxyl is basically what it would be. And then if it was to invoke passive spirit, which let me see, that's just S and P. So when I say there was nitroxyl, this is what I mean. When you invoke active spirit, that's banishing. That's banishing. I don't know why I got it like that in my book. But either way, it would be ONH. Let's see, yeah. ONHC, and then either S or P, depending on which one you would use. In this case, it would be P, because phosphorus is the active element. And when you combine that together, it creates, I want to say, palmitic acid. I think it's like palmitic acid or something like that. But essentially, that's the correlation between using connecting the pentagram with chemistry, right? Now it gets a little bit interesting here, right? Because now that you have that's just the pentagram. Hang on. Yeah. So did I do the solid one? I don't think I did the solid one. Gas and liquid. I started this and I did not finish this work. I need to finish this. But okay. Anyway, basically when you have your pentagram or whatever, right? Now, there are two different pentagrams here. One is the gas form of those elements, and then you also have the liquid form of those elements, right? With the gas form, you're going, instead of well, you still have hydrogen, right? You still have oxygen, you still have carbon, but nitrogen turns into nitrate. That's the only difference. Now if you are to do the liquid part, you know, convert everything to liquid, you have water, which is H2O for water. I'm not sure what liquid oxygen. I think they have like something called liquid oxygen for oxygen. It's in liquid form. Then you have like the liquid nitrogen and liquid carbon and, you know, liquid sulfur, what, you know, all that good stuff, whatever, right? But either way, the reason why I pulled all this out is because essentially when it comes to chemistry, chemistry is in everything, just like you know, the pentagram and all the other stuff is found in nature and stuff like that or whatever, right? So when I started this work originally, I combined, like I say, I was combining elements. I mean, you know, I combine elements with the elemental, essentially, because when we delve with, let's say, with the planet or planetary, you know, planetary hexagram, the hexagram for like planetary work and stuff like that. Normally what we do is we correlate the metal connected to the planet with each planet to have a connection to it. You see what I'm saying? The metal that we use in planetary seals or planetary hexagram is equivalent to having like blood of that planet, and using that, you know, as like a something tangible to hold on to. So like for the sun, it will be gold. Gold is like the blood of the sun. Lead is like the blood of Saturn. Tin is like the blood of Jupiter. You see what I'm saying? So forth and so on. Now, when I correlated this, I correlated based off the human body. Because when you, okay, with the, of course, with the pentagram or whatever, you know, we got, of course, 5 already. But when you correlate it with the element, the question came up, if gold is to, whatever gold is to the sun, there has to be something that correlates to fire. So what is the equivalent of gold to the sun that is in fire to this element? What element would that be? And the first thing that came up was oxygen. Fire is to oxygen what gold is to the sun in a circumstance of work. And that was the conversion aspect of it. You see what I'm saying? Now, when we really break it down and stuff like that, it gets even deeper. And this is just stuff that I have been working on. So basically, I'm not going to go into too much detail because it gets really complicated. When you look at this, essentially everybody sees what pretty much circle inside circles, right? This is a shell. This is an electron shell, the atom, right? In the atom, we have what? The first shell, we have 2. The next one, we have what? I think like 8. It's like 8 max. I want to say it's like 8 max. It's wild how all of this like interconnect and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I know I got haters or whatever that's been trying to like watch to discredit, and I'm okay with that. But let's see, it's so much. I got so much stuff up here, man. I got it correlated to like the tree of life, angels, planet shapes, man, everything. Okay, so I can't find it, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use what I already have. And I've been studying this it had to be for about 2 years. It took me 2 years to write this book. Yeah, it took me about 2 years. So anyway, long story short, let's get back to the good stuff, right? Wow. Anyway, so this is your shell or whatever, right? Now it's time to correlate this shell to magic, right? When you saw that shell initially, what did it look like? Circles, right? Now compare it to sigils. And the sigils, This is the center point, right? This right here represents the duality right here, right? And this represents the order, okay? Because in magic, you have, you have the circle, which represents, it's all encompassing, basically, right? It represents, I would say heaven. Let's say heaven, okay? The reason why it represents heaven is because it's a series of lines. I mean, it's a series of dots that are infinite dots that are interconnected one by one, that are connected by lines, an infinite amount of lines. Basically, it's just an infinite amount of lines going in one area, going around the area or in the area, whatever, right? It represents infinity, essentially. Next, you have, let's say, the triangle, right? The triad. The triad or the triangle represents what? Balance. And next, you have the squares, right? What does the square represent when you're doing your seals? Order. That's why, for some magi, they have square seals. Square seals represents order, dominion over the earth, order, okay? Your triangles represents balance and triads, right? Whether it's balancing or unbalancing. Then you have your circles, right? Which represents heaven. They're all encompassing. Now, essentially, most of our seals that we work with, they have what? Circles. They have a circle with a circle on the outside. Some have even more, but what they represent is the atom. This is you at the center. This is your purest intention in the center. Right here, you're surrounded by the dyad, what we call the dyad, a masculine and or a feminine energy. What does that mean? Active or passive spirit that you're going to use, okay? And then this on the outside, outer shell, has to do with all the supporting work in the inside. So that could be like the angels, the choirs of angels and names and things like that, or whatever it may be. And now it all represents what? It's all in what? The atom. Some atoms are bigger than this. Others are smaller. But this was just the most convenient without getting it too complicated. Like, oh my God. Because I'll tell you, in this book that I got, that my notebook, it get like that. It really gets like that. I've correlated to infinity. There's a lot of mathematics stuff in here, man. It's a lot of stuff, man. And it may not make sense, and I know a lot of people might lose interest, and whatever. I'm okay with that. I just love it. Oh, you know what? I got an idea. I'll do that on the next video. So why is this, why do we see this in, okay, yeah, applying in chemistry. Yeah, basically it's a seal. It's a seal. With the seal on the inside, just like with the atom, it's full of what? Neutrons and protons. Protons and neutrons. You can put as many protons and neutrons stuff in there as you like, right? That represents what? Your vision, your intention. Your intention is on a gradient. It's not fixed, which means it's not necessarily just a dot. It's not fixed. Your intention is a period, is the dot, but it's like a kaleidoscope or a gradient of all these different energies that you're embodying at that time when you're doing the work. True enough, we like to stay focused, but our energy, frequency, and vibration attunes and adjusts the gradient in which we work our intention. My gradient, it may be different than your gradient. You see what I'm saying? Next has to do with duality. Which spirit are you going to work with in terms of light and dark? I mean, not necessarily light and dark. Oh, I don't know where that came from. Not light and dark, but in terms of masculine and feminine. Yin and yang. That's what it is. Yin and yang. Which energy are you going to work with? The light energy is the masculine energy. which is what? An active energy. Then the dark energy has to do with the feminine energy, which is a passive energy, which has to do with what? The mind space. Without the mind space perceives, and the active spirit creates. Neither one can do without the other. That's why people without imaginations tend to struggle in life. And people who are too imaginative struggle in life. But if they learn to work together, guess what? You imagine it, I'll build it. I build, you see. So anyway, let's see here. Yeah, I like this book. I really like this book, man. I really like this book. I would put so much of my notes and stuff in it, and it's a lot. I wish I could just be like, hey, look at everything, but I know that's not proper at all. That's not proper. Also, biology. That's what I should do. I should do biology next, right? So anyway, yeah, so that's pretty much all I got for this video. It's way too much for me to show everything at once, right? But essentially what happens is, like, you know, just like with the atom, what happens is you get this ray of light that comes and interacts with this, right? This is why light is important, and the space that you're in is important. This is why. When you are in a low vibrational space, that energy is going to come into the center. It's going to hit the center, and I believe it causes the electrons, what you're trying to manifest, to come towards you. So if you're in a low vibrational energy, it draws it in like that, right? Because that's what happened when we take a low vibration light and hit an atom with it. It causes the electron to jump its shell to come down here, which means it loses energy, right? Now when you're in high vibration and it hit that shell, it hit that electron, it's going to cause that electron to come from here up into a higher shell. Where do I see that at? I believe we see that with infusion, nuclear fusion. I believe that's what it is too. Where it's like you shoot. No, that's not it. It's not nuclear fusion or fission. It has to do with I'm gonna have to look it up. It has something to do with some kind of nuclear technology though. I do remember that. But essentially what they do is, in order to enrich certain elements or atoms and stuff like that, what they do is they take they fire this photon. Is it a photon? I believe it's like a photon light at the atom to excite it. With the positive energy from the light, guess what it does? It expands. But after being expanded for so long, it wants to come back to its natural energy. So what does it do? It starts to contract. As it contracts, what is on it? The energy from the inside, from those electron shells, it pushes this out. You know what I'm saying? And I believe we see that with like plutonium and stuff like that. That's what makes it unstable. I think that's part of the reason why it's unstable. I got to double check and look into that or whatever, right? But yeah, you know, with that kind of information, a lot of people is like, well, why is this so important? Why is this useful information? Here we go. So let's say that you want to work with, let's say, I don't know, sugar. You're doing sugar, right? You're going to work with sugar today, right? I believe sugar is, I want to say it's like CHO something, right? Whatever, right? Something like that. Let's say that's sugar, right? Oh, you got a C here, you got H, You got N, and then you got S, and you got P. So basically, when you're going to do this, when you work with that sugar, you're going to start here, and you're going to do an invocation over the sugar. What you do is you invoke a passive spirit over the sugar, right? That's what we do, right? Over here, that's why you got CHO. C to H. It's going to come to N first, and then you're going to come down to O. That's where you're going to stop, and come up here, and come back down. You see what I'm saying? But you follow, basically the way it's set up is you follow the chemical, the chemical code, the chemistry code in the circle, or whatever circle that you got, and it adds power to that whatever you're working with. And you don't have to do that, but this is all theoretical. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty much like a theoretical kind of thing, and that's what I, kind of been working with. It's wild, because I've correlated it to, like I say, biology, a lot of stuff, man. A lot of stuff. Let's see what else we got in here before I take off. Transcendental. Oh, yeah. I think I'm going to do that another day. I think I should do that another day. I'm just looking through here right quick. Okay, so this has to do with making your own rooms. Oh, 30 minutes? Okay. I guess what I'll do is I'll tap it in. Okay. So let's make our own rooms today, right? Okay. So when it comes to making your own rooms, basically, or anything spiritual, magical, whatever, we all know that everything gets its power and its authority from what we perceive. If I perceive this pen to be a wand, thus it becomes a wand. If I perceive this pen to be a line in space, thus it is, right? That's the concept behind, that's the theoretical concept behind magic, right? What we believe it to be is what it becomes. So, with that being said, work with me now. We operate in a numerical system of base 9, right? Which means 0 through 9 is the numbers that we use. After 9, it becomes what? 1 0 through 1 9. And then after that, it becomes 2 0 through 2 9. Like that. That's our base when we use base 9, right? So I'm going to show you how to make your own rooms. First, you're going to draw a circle like that, right? You're going to draw a circle like that, and then you're going to decide what base you want to operate out of. Let's do base 5. Let's do base 5, okay? So basically, you're going to do 0 through 5, right? So when you get to 6, what is 6? 6 will be 1 0. 7 is going to be 1 1. 8 is going to be 1 2. 9 is going to be 1 3. 10 is going to be 1 4. 11 is going to be 1 5, right? And then 12 is going to be 2 0. See how that works? I'm going to show you. Just like when we did the base 9. 0 through 9, it's like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then when you get to 9, guess what? It's 1 0. Same thing here with this base. You have 0 through 5. Essentially, it is 6 numbers, right? That's just like base 9 is really 10 numbers because you're counting 0. But once you get to 6, there's nothing after 6. So our concept of 6 will be 1 0. Then you go to 1 1. Then you go to 1 2. Then you go to 1 3. Then you go to 1 4. Then you go to 1 5. After 1 5, guess what? You started back over with 2 0. And you go all the way over. You see what I'm saying? So now let's add that together. You got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you should have 6 dots on your chart, on your circle like that, right? And now that we have base 5, now we need a multiplier. Whether we're going to add 2, we can do any multiplier that you want to do. You can multiply, divide, take a percentage, fractions, whatever. And in this circumstance, to keep it simple, I'm going to do 2 different ones. I'm going to do base 5 times base 5 2, which is multiplied by 2. And then on another one, I'm going to do base 5 and do 3. Okay. So basically, you're going to start with, this is your 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, like that, right? Now, 0 times, okay, you know that 0 times what is that? 2 is 0, right? So what I do is I just circle it. Leave it a dot and just circle it. Now that 1 times 2 is what? 2. So you're going to go from 1 to 2. You're going to draw a line from 1 to 2, just like that, right? And then you're going to go to the number 2. 2 times 2 is what? 4. So you're going to draw a line from 2 to 4, like that, right? And then you're going to go to 3. 3 times 2 is what? 6. Our 6 is what? 1 plus 5, which does what? Gives us what? 6 again. So it keeps giving us that number of 6. 1 5, 1 5. It's going to give us 1 5. 1 plus 5 is what? 15. It's itself. So what do you do in that situation? You're just going to create a character for it. Whatever character is fine. You see what I'm saying? Now, we're 4. 4 times 2 is 8. We don't have an 8. So we have 5, 6. Oh, wait. We do have a 6. We do have a 6. That's my mistake. Okay. Because remember I said 3 times 2? That would be 6, which would be 1 0. 1 plus 0 is 1, right? So you'll come from this 3 up here to 1. That's the part about it, why that's the tricky part about the rune or whatever, right? So then you have 4, which is what? 4 times 2, which is 8, right? So you got 5, 6, 7, 8, which is 1 plus 2, which does what? 3. So it goes back to the 3. And then 5. 5 times 2 is what? Will be 10. 10 is 1 plus 4, which gives you 5. Now let me double check and make sure I did everything right before 1 times 2, boom. 2 times 2, boom. 3 times 2, which would be 6, boom. And then 4, I had what? 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boom. Okay. And then y'all gonna laugh at this. 5 times 2 is what? 10. 5. So what I got is this right here. Because remember I told you, when it added up to itself or whatever, you can make whatever character you want or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So if I was to make this into a room, my room would look like this. And from there, you assign a meaning to it. You assign a meaning to it. And then from there, you start creating your own rooms with your own whatever. And you don't have to just do it, you know, with this one. You can do it with a lot of them. I got a lot of them here. I got some that look like I did base 4. Well, okay, wait. Hold on. Because I said I was going to do that other one, right? That's base 2. I'm going to do base 5, base 3 right quick. 5, base 3. What time is it? About 45 minutes in. Okay, yeah, let me hurry up because I don't want this video to go too long. Alright. So, let's see here. 5, base 2, base 3. So you got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? 0 through 5. You got okay. So, and I said 3, right? Okay, so 0 times, let's see, 0 times 3 is just going to be 0, right? 1 times 3 is going to be 3, right? So we got our first line. And then you got 2 times 3, which would be what, 6? So you got 5, 6, that's 1 plus 0. Because essentially it would be like the 10 or whatever. So 5 plus 0, 1 plus 0. You got that to go back up to the 1, just like that. And then 3 times 3 is 9. So you got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1 plus 3, that's 4, right? And then you got 4 times 3, which is 12. So you got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It goes to the 2. Wow. That's wild. And then you got 5 times 3, which is 15. 5, which is 2 plus 3. Yeah, in this circumstance, it came back out the same way. That's weird. It don't normally come out like that. Matter of fact, when I did it the first time, it was more down this way somewhere. You know what I'm saying? But essentially, that's how you would do it or whatever. You know, that's how you create your own runes. Or part of it is you're going to use a mathematical, you know, mathematics to do it. And it's not always going to turn out that same way. Sometimes you get something like, I don't know, I'm just going to draw one. I got one that's like this. I got one like that. And, you know, you just go on and on and on and on and on. But that's all I got for today, because I think I overstepped my boundary in terms of like showing different stuff that I get excited about that nobody else normally will probably even get excited about. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to have some fun. All right, I love y'all all. Y'all take it easy, and peace.